Welcome to week one of Social Work 636, Organization and Program Development, Spring 2018, Section 1. Again, this is Dr. Norma Thomas, and I hope you've already had a chance to review the welcome video that I have posted. So what I want to do in this video is to go over a little bit about the course and the assignments for the first week and talk generally about some of the readings from the first week. So if you have taken online courses before, then you're familiar with the structure of the courses, but there's a section to welcome you to organization and program development, and that there is a video by Dr. Steve Kaufman, which I would encourage you to take a look at, which provides an overview of the course. So organization and program development is the third course in the macro practice sequence. And so it builds upon the concepts learned in both social and economic justice courses. This class presents theoretical and practical materials necessary for all aspects of practice which impact the social service agency. And so please take a look at that video. Student resources are listed here, and then the class goes through week by week what will be covered in that week. There is the syllabus, which you can find if you click on this link, the course schedule, which I would invite you to get a big calendar and put on that calendar when things are due, or to print out the schedule and attach dates to that schedule so you can be aware of when things are due. And I would suggest trying to get in work before the due date, because what can go wrong will go wrong. Plagiarism information, very important for you to take a look at. Plagiarism is a serious offense, and so please take a look at what constitutes plagiarism. Anytime you are quoting work or incorporating work that is not an original idea of yours, you need to give credit where credit is due. So err on the side of too many citations versus not enough. And when you make assertions, they should be backed up by research. Listed here are the major projects. And so you will see that there are discussion boards that are ongoing. There is an organization capacity assessment due week 2. Week 4 is assignment 2, program proposal part 1, and then program proposal part 2, and then the final program proposal due week 6. And there are templates for all of those proposals. And we will be going over all of those. So for week 1, there are student resources. Week 1 is understanding organizations, policy and programs, definitions, and relationships. So I'm going to hope this loads fairly quickly. So in week 1, under learning resources, you will see the objectives, readings, and media. The objectives for week 1 include to define social service organizations and their functions, to describe organizational structure, processes, and local environment, and then to analyze the relationship between policy, programs, and organizational function. There are several required readings. One is by Lukert, which is National Organizations, Definitions, and Examples. This is a short article. Internal revenue, although it says it's a pretty lengthy document. The document I printed was just 12 pages, so it talks much more about what nonprofits can and cannot do in terms of being able to advocate and be involved in political campaigning. Essentially, organizations have a lot of restrictions in terms of what they can do around advocacy, lobbying, and supporting political candidates. And essentially, organizations that are 501c3 cannot lend support to a particular candidate, although they can do things like advocate for constituents to get out to vote, to help with registration for voting, as long as they do not advocate one candidate over the other. The article by Green is around effective leadership in social service organizations and understanding why it is important to have clinicians and people with good clinical skills also develop good administrative skills so that social workers can be the leaders of human service organizations. And it also talks extensively about women and the struggles women have in terms of assuming leadership positions, and also issues around diversity based on race and other characteristics. This article by Dr. Kaufman, or this chapter in this book by Dr. Kaufman, is a lengthy article, but it does give some of the basis, especially around assessment of organizations. Websites to explore include this website on Higher Ground, the 2013 Violence Against Women Act. And this gives you an example of how policy impacts organizational function, and policy drives clinical practice as well. So going further in week one, we went over objectives readings. There are 2 discussion posts. The first one asked you to look at the Widener shared case, which you can get to based on this link. And you are to answer 2 questions. 1, in a perfect world, what kinds of services should be available to Anita and to her children? And secondly, from what you know from your social work practice, what kinds of barriers, issues exist that might limit this family from receiving the services that they need? You are to follow up, in addition to the post answering these questions, you are to follow up with at least one classmate who does not already have a response, and discuss the similarities and differences you see among your classmates. Your initial post is due by Thursday of this week, and your follow-up response is due between Friday and Sunday. And this gives you the parameters of a sufficient post, including noting references. So that's one. The next discussion the next discussion is getting to know an organization. So this one is a little more complicated. So the first part in the week one discussion, getting to know your organization, you have been assigned a partner, and you will see in an email from me who that partner is. You will complete a response following the response prompt directions below to your partner's initial post. If your partner has not completed their initial post by Thursday midnight, essentially, please let me know. So each of you is to complete a response. Here's your initial post. In this course, we will be spending a lot of time considering the context, both physical and otherwise, in which we practice social work, as well as the roles we play. The course assignments will require you to identify an organization or agency for assessment, program development, and grant writing. If you have had a field placement, this could be your field placement. For others, it could be a current, past, or future employment or volunteer site. For others, it could be an organization or agency of a particular interest to you. So please note, the greater your access to the organization, the easier the assignment will be. So if you have familiarity with an organization, that makes it easier. In your initial post, include all of the following: the name and location of an organization or agency, either a human service or social work organization or an organization that employs social workers. Please see the paragraph above for guidance. A brief 4 to 6 sentence description of the organization and a brief 4 to 6 sentence description of your role or desired role within the organization. So each of you will do that initial post. And then the response. You have to look at your partner's post, and now using your partner's organization as the subject for your search, you are going to conduct a media and social media investigation of the organization. Spend at least 30 and no more than 90 minutes documenting the online presence and reputation of the organization your classmate wrote about in their initial post. And so the suggestion is that you create a folder to hold the evidence that you find on your computer. So you can use media clips, screenshots, photos, PDFs, screencast-o-matic, web links, etc. to capture the evidence. You can document official evidence of an online presence as well as unofficial evidence. So that could be the organization's webpage for the official, and then the unofficial news stories about the organization or social media mentions of the organization. So look for the online presence of this organization. In your response, post 2 to 3 paragraphs summarizing what you have found. Include the organization's name and the subject of your response. And in your response, address in those 2 to 3 paragraphs the following: what kinds of evidence of an online presence did you find? What type of organization is this? How would you describe its characteristics? Does it seem compassionate or disorganized or fragmented? You may be able to find that via their website. Would its administrators be pleased with its online presence or reputation? Do they even have a Facebook or a Twitter account? Or do they have any connection with social media? Does this seem like the kind of organization that you would want to send someone to visit? Would you want to go there? Given what the organization agency does, do you think its online presence is a good fit? Why or why not? And then, after you've done those 2 to 3 paragraphs, upload at least 3 pieces of evidence to your response. The discussion forum will allow you to attach materials, photos, screenshots, etc. as attachments for your response. So at least 3 pieces of evidence. Again, the guidelines: your initial post is due Thursday and your follow-up response is due between Friday and Sunday. And this gives you the characteristics of an initial post. So again, you will work with a partner. Each of you will do an initial post, and then you will switch off essentially. And for your response, do what is outlined above. And I hope that is clear. If not, please ask questions via email. So that's the requirements for this week in terms of the initial post and the 2 discussion posts. Assignment 1, organizational capacity assessment, is due in week 2. So just be mindful that that is due in week 2. And you might want to look ahead in terms of what that assignment is. To say a few words about organizations, the social work profession has often been described as having a split personality, direct practitioners versus macro practitioners. However, as described in the article on effective leadership in social service agencies, the ability to work with clients and others constituents must be paired with administrative skills if our organizations are going to be led by social workers. Organizations are systems composed of inputs, throughputs, and outputs. They can be nonprofit, organized for a public benefit, but they can also show a profit, and for-profit entities where monies that are made over expenses must be shared with investors. Human service organizations have their history in charitable organizations, which we can trace back to England. However, in this country, there was also a parallel system of mutual aid societies established by African Americans, since they were excluded from social service organizations. An example of this is the Free African Society, which was established in Philadelphia. Just like our clients are assessed to determine strengths and areas of weaknesses, so too organizations need assessments if they are to improve. Organizations such as the organizations serve as the mediating system between clients and the fulfillment of needs. As identified in the chapter by Dr. Kaufman, organizational assessment requires the use of clinical skills. The purpose of an organization is defined by its mission. Agency goals flow from that mission and are what the organization aspires to, while the objectives are the measurements used to determine if the goals and ultimately the mission is achieved. Some organizations may or may not have a vision statement. This is often laid out in an organizational strategic plan. Once goals and objectives are developed, then the intervention phase occurs. And interventions could be things like staff development and training, leadership development, diversity training, resource development, etc. And resource development is often achieved through proposal writing, which is one of the assignments in this course. Constituents and agencies are outlined in the Kaufman chapter, from the administration at the top to clients at the bottom of the structure. Please note that there are client-centered organizational charts that put the clients at the top. There are formal structures and informal components of agencies. Formal structures are outlined by organizational charts, while informal structures denote where the power actually lies in organizations. And a SWOT analysis that's described in the Kaufman article is often done in relation to the strategic plan. That SWOT analysis outlines agency strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So please read the articles that were assigned in totality. If you have any questions about this week's assignment, please let me know. Again, the initial posts for the discussions are due on Thursday, and the follow-up posts are due between Friday and Sunday. And I look forward to reading your responses.